From A.J. Merrin, the writer and creator of the Lost Lancastrian podcast, comes a new tale of an historical event that changed the world and ended an independent country. When Grift Killed a Nation is a twisting tale of lies, spin, excitement, treachery, colonialism, imperialism, ambition, greed, and hope. The tale of how promises of new tools and technology could save the ailing nation of Scotland turned into a reality that ended the independent country. An event that opened the doors to the largest empire the world has ever known and the birth of a new nation seeking liberty. This is the story of the Darien Venture, told in a depth you've never heard before. When Grift Killed a Nation Part 1 is 10 episodes and will start 9 AM UK time, Friday 16th of February 2024, with an episode each week from then on. You can listen to it on your favourite podcast player of choice and follow it so you never miss an episode. Here's a preview of things to come. Some people may find events depicted in this disturbing. Captain Thomas Green and his mate, John Madder, could hear the dull thunder of the growing crowd through the damp stone and earth of the castle's cell walls. Madder was uncomfortably perched on the end of a rotting wood bench, with a rag of a sheet covering it. Green paced slowly and deliberately, waiting for the keeper to return with the inevitable news of the Queen's clemency. The rumble from outside grew ever louder, and as it did, Madder began to fidget. Green understood the worry that his mate was evidently undergoing, but felt it was his duty to embody strength of character and fortitude, so that Madder may be emboldened to believe their coming reprieve. Yet, no matter how much he stiffened his spine, Green could not stop the noise from building to a greater crescendo. Outside on the filthy streets of this rotting city on a hill, people had converged on Edinburgh through every gate and toll house. They had made their way across the firth at the Queensferry, trudged muir and field, wood and roads, even braved their way around the wretched Norloch, all with a single purpose: to ensure they saw the treacherous English pirates hang. They chanted, "No reprieve!" and sang the ballad inspired by Roderick Mackenzie, secretary of the daring Company of Scotland, telling the tale of the brave ship Speedy Return and the treacherous English pirates of the Worcester who had sunk her. But not before beheading the captain, a brave hero of Darien, and enslaving the crew. Midway down the hill, in the Parliament buildings, the few members of the Privy Council huddled and discussed their next move. They had ordered additional security, but although the streets of the city were lousy with dragoons, there was still the growing fear and tension of being unimaginably outnumbered. None of them were discussing the case in hand, the reprieve that the Queen had publicly stated would be right, but had not ordered. Half the council had long before made their excuses for absence, from unlikely illness to the delivery of a daughter's new horse. The message was clear. No one wanted to be involved. There was no win to be had, and, for many of those present, the only hope was to sate the demands of the mob outside. In their jail cell, Green and Madder both stood by the door as the keeper finally arrived, but surprisingly to Green, with tower guards, bayonets attached. With a clunk, the heavy door was unlocked and swung open. "It's time," grumbled the keeper. Green stepped forward first, with a brief cough into his fist and a confident stride. Madder followed with a bravado becoming his position and obligation. As they reached the exit to the outside world, the number of guards surrounding them increased dramatically. Green muttered something to the effect of this being an overreaction to the threat they posed, or their chances of escape. Madder gave him the first look of disbelief that day. Unlike Green, Madder was not English, and he knew that they were about to exit these walls to meet his countrymen. For all of the show of bravery, Madder knew in his heart what Green had not yet caught on to. He knew there was no reprieve coming, no clemency to be offered, no saving grace in this cursed land, forgotten by its monarch and left to ruin and poverty. The great doors opened, and the guards escorted the two prisoners out through the inner court to the grand forecourt, filled to bursting with bustling, swaying, chanting crowds. As the men appeared in public for the first time, the crowd hushed. Bayonets rattled and buckles clanked. A few jeers came with the launching of several putrid items stocked for the occasion. The two men held their heads up and maintained their composure. The act of composure quietened the crowd. They all gradually made their way down the hill in an uneasy, disquiet procession. The uncomfortable quiet lasted until they reached the bottom of the high street and down to Leith Walk to the north of Carlton Hill. Lining the long road were more troops, numbering some 80,000 along its entire length. The crowds here no longer held their tongues and loosed their rotting vegetables at the passing pirates. Green encouraged Madder to keep his head held high as they strode on surrounded by soldiers and the angry mob. He would not let his fortitude slip, both for himself and his mate. Anyway, he was sure, any minute a rider would arrive with news of the Queen's clemency. The walk was long and made more the struggle by the mob's projectiles. Yet, when they reached Leith Sands, Green took a breath of the familiar sea air and felt sure if he looked hard enough, he could see his command across the Firth of Forth. He and Madder were ushered up the steps to the platform of the gallows, the thick ropes swaying slightly in the salty breeze. "There's nothing to concern yourself with," Green smiled at Madder. "Our reprieve will surely arrive soon." He glanced down towards the walk, and then to the east road, looking for the rider, as Madder shook his head. The hangman stepped forward with a hood in hand, and Green batted it away. "Hold back, our reprieve will be here." A moment that felt like a mud-filled eternity passed, and the hangman stepped forward again. Again, Green knocked the hood away. "The Queen knows our innocence, and the reprieve will arrive soon," he stated with waning confidence. On the third attempt, it seemed to finally dawn on Green what was about to happen, and Madder felt the shock of empathy and duty as his captain's world fell apart before his very eyes. He reached out a hand and guided Green forward with words to help him find solace and come to terms with the inevitable. Green accepted this offering, the world around him shifting into a haze, the crowd noise turning to the dull roar of a muzzled beast. Green looked back to the Firth of Forth, trying to see his first and only command across the water. There was a dark blotch over at the small village of Burnt Island. Perhaps that was it. His ship, the Worcester. The ship he had received command of at the age of 21. As the hood was placed over his head, he realized that that was the last time he would see his ship, if that was his ship. With the weight of the rope on his shoulders being tightened around his neck, he heard through the din that ballad again. He knew he would never know beyond the age of 25 because of the lie in a song. With the dual crack of the men's necks snapping, the rumble of the crowd turned to a holler and a laugh that flowed like a wave through the crowd, from the sands of Leith, up the walk, the High Street, to the doors of Parliament where the Privy Council still hid, and the offices of the Company of Scotland, where all of this had begun. The cheer of the mob echoed off the hills and crossed the Firth to the beached Worcester, now ransacked and emptied from her cargo to her sails, her hulk left to rot on the sands. When Grift Killed a Nation Part 1 is 10 episodes and will start 9 AM UK time, Friday 16th of February 2024, with an episode each week from then on. You can listen to it on your favourite podcast player of choice and follow it so you never miss an episode.